not what we envisioned, but it's whatever they bring to the script, whatever their religious background is, whatever their life experiences are, how they view those two sets of twins. It's interesting to watch that dynamic. It's, you know, I think that these kids were reincarnated into Arjun and Krishna. I think that somehow this Arjun and Krishna are channeling these two twins that grew up in their house. And so we kind of left it open. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily a good thing in a play. It was just how we chose to do it.
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of my background and how into it. So dopamine, when we had it at Sundance, we workshopped it at Sundance Institute, but it won the Alfred P. Sloan Award, which is the film that best combines art and science. And I think you're in this thing where you're trying to combine art and science. You're trying to have this side of mysticism versus you know, the scientific explanation for everything. So I kind of can feel a little bit of what you're going through there. I think my biggest problem with the first act, and I agree with Paul that you need action right away. You need to get moving. This stuff in here, the first act, is some of the stuff you should use as a flashback and get right into the story, if at all you want to tell that, because I think you have roughly 15 to 20 period changes in one act. It's like that's just not doing a service to anybody following as many characters you have to service. There's all of these kind of people coming all over the place that, and they have the same names in different periods of times and the different kind of things like that. I think it's, you're trying to wind these people up. And then there comes this other point, and I know that this is a personal story and your launching point. But, you know, in McKee and other people like that, it's like who I used to teach, by the way. It's like, but one of the things they also is don't let the truth get in the way of the story. You're in a screenwriting competition, you're writing a story. The truth of how it happened with your son and what he said might not service the story the best as how people have to understand it, okay? And the last point I would make is probably many that we could, but I think there's a tendency for people who are writing some of their first stuff to get influenced by the end cut of a film. Like this feels like you're an editor going back and forth, or like a new type of novelist that writes the 2-page chapters because they know they're trying to build scenes for, you know, the next detective novel. Make sure whoever's reading it, and there's readers all over Hollywood in different places, that what they want, they'll know you're a good writer, just get the story. And then, like for instance in Dopamine, our opening scene that we wrote was edited in 2/3 of the way into the piece. But what we did is we got the story out. Okay? I think you're cutting and making smaller scenes and getting in the way of what could be a beautiful kind of this kind of epic cross-cultural kind of coming together type of tale that I think is in you, but I think that the approach you're taking right now is getting in the way of your story. But I think there's a story here, and that's, I mean, this is what it's all about. It's about a story that's authentic. But I think that you also, one of the things they told us, I mean, our first script, you know, was close to 200 pages, and then we wrote it down to it's 80 pages, and it was an hour and 20 minutes, because they told us you can't service too many stories, you can't have too many arcs, and tell one story and tell it well, and believe what you're telling. I kind of think leaving it to the audience of they can think of it any different ways. I mean, don't you have a point of view? You know, I mean, I'm sure you do, and it's like, and it might be right or it might be wrong. I mean, we were trying to figure out whether love is chemistry or chemical. That was all dope. But it's like, I like, you know, the idea, does reincarnation exist? They are the big kind of stories that you can write good stuff about. So I think that do your subject the service of, I would seriously do what Paul says. I would start your script right at page 30 or whatever, and go forward, and don't be economical with those 60 pages. Make them 90, make them 100, especially if you can make them 120. You get the story out, then pull back and find where the story is.
You know, just to follow up on that, I think it makes a great point about story, and I think, and the way you were kind of answering my question told me a lot. I feel like you guys have this amazing concept that you're very passionate about, and you know, wow, there's a fantastic novel or a great movie in this concept. And I don't think you have got your story yet. And I think that's why your answer tended to kind of be long-winded and stuff, is I think you need to, what he said with the multiple servicing all those arcs, you're not going to be able to pay all of them off, at least not well, in 90 or 100 or even 110 pages with that many. I mean, I think you guys need to really say, okay, this is an amazing concept. This is really interesting. It's great to have an audience walk out of a movie and be debating it or questioning it. But there's got to be a story there. It's for it to be a work of fiction, a dramatic piece, you know, a film or a play or a novel. It's got to be a story. No matter how great your dialogue is, no matter how great your structure is, nothing ever works unless you're telling a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you can leave questions at the end, but I think it's really critical for this, for you guys to really look at this and find out what you're so passionate about with this whole concept and pick a part of it, whether it's telling those two stories parallel, the 1930s story and the modern day one, and just have a parallel action thing where they end up coming together, or pulling back from the past one and going more with the medical, the art versus science thing. There's several different stories in there, and I think you guys need to lock on to the one that you like the best and tell that, and I think it'll do worlds for your screenplay.
When we reread it, I mean, there was this, we said, you know, these first 32 pages are slow. I mean, it's not until the real end of that you're seeing the major conflict, which is that of Arjun and what he predicts is going to befall him or his brother.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think we both concur and we both agree that there should be some reversal to the way that's going to be.
Because you know, it's in certain films, it's okay to have slow 30 pages as long as it's compelling, as long as there's a carrot being dangled that's going to keep the audience invested, that's going to, you know, while it's going along slow, but these characters are so rich or amazing or stuff's going on, but you know, that wasn't in here.
Merchant Ivory.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah, it's just like they're
Well,
painful.
we also see it
They're hiding
really,
something.
Right, but you have to keep watching because you know some disaster's going to strike these poor souls.
The Juggernaut, if you will.
Right, I mean, you know what, that's a great thing. When you brought up the Juggernaut thing, which was very late in your storytelling, it's like, wow, that's the title of the film. That should be, you know, the biggest thing in this story.
That lesson could be your opening scene.
Yeah.
That lesson to the children could be your kicking off point. And
Yeah.
it's like everyone in the entire theater is going to learn something they didn't know. And all of a sudden, you've got an activated moviegoer.
And they're going to be hooked because they're going to know, wow, they just told us what Juggernaut is. The title of the movie I just paid $12 for is Juggernaut. That's going to come home at some point. That, you know, that right there, you're creating your tension. All right.
Yeah, and then shut up.
Next.